grew up in South Dakota, and then I lived in Minneapolis for like 6 years or so. And then we moved out here, I don't know, like 2 years ago, and we live on like the outskirts of town, and like kind of like where the area we live is right on the North Country trails, and so it's like right at the end of the block is the start of the trail. And I really like to be outside, but I'm like someone who's kind of a homebody, and so it's like I'm not necessarily like traveling a lot. I'm not like going out of state or to other countries. So it's like nice to like have a trail that I can visit often. And so I think like what's really fun about like like when you go to the same trail all the time is that you see the changes like seasonally, and also kind of like how animals act differently during the seasons, and like the migration of like birds and stuff. When I was planning the show, I kind of I had like just some like printer paper, and I was drawing kind of like little thumbnail sketches, because I was kind of thinking of it as like, if we're thinking of the gallery, this is almost like a installation of like if we were going to go out in the wild and there happened to be all these animals there, and like almost like snapshots. And so it's like, here's this a little like framed thumbnail of what the animals would be doing. You know, we have the frog leaping away from maybe a heron or someone hunting it, and we have this fox that's curious looking up, and maybe we have one rabbit taking a bath, but the other rabbit's running away. Maybe it's scared, something scared it or something. So just kind of thinking of how they behave, but having different positions, and thinking of how they like interact with one another. Well, it's like, oh, I've always been kind of creating art. I've always been drawing, and I think watercolor just always was what I felt the most comfortable using. Like it just kind of made sense to me. I started working with it mainly in high school. I was really into art. I was kind of one of the art kids or whatever. And so like my medium choice is always watercolor. I did a lot of like watercolor mixed with like ink, so a lot of like line work. But I think it's still like what drew me to it was, you know, the transparency of the medium and how you can kind of see each layer. And then, like I said before, like the how much you can like kind of push it. And I think that's like what really draws me watercolors. Like there's so many, like you could say you're a watercolor artist. And I think sometimes we have like a vision of like what a watercolor artist work looks like, but it can be so diverse. Like you could go very tiny, you know, you can have like really saturated paint and do really tiny brush strokes and very meticulous, or you could do like super loose washes and like, yeah. And I think that's just what really draws me to is like how much I can learn about the medium and like how I can push it. Like what drew me to animals in the first place, and like when I started painting with watercolors, was at the time I was living in Minneapolis, and like, you know, it's a big city. You know, I was living in an industrial area of town, and even living in like a big city, it's like there's still wildlife around you, and if you just like pay attention and like go to certain areas, like you start noticing it. And like that's like originally what drew me to painting birds, is like there's birds everywhere, and like it's really fun just to kind of see that even in an urban environment. Yeah, thank you. It's like super awesome. I've had fun, and like I'm like so glad that. And every time I get a message like, "Oh, this one's sold," I'm like, "Yay! It has a home." Like, I mean, I want my art to go to people, and then it's like, I don't know. The more it sells, the more I can just make more art.